everyone. Today, we wanted to start the inquiry by talking about a phenomena which happened just last weekend, right, ladies, was the Barbie movie. The Barbie movie actually finally came into the theater, but actually we want to talk about the brand identity line to it. I guess, what I read alongside all the article I screened through this weekend is that last weekend actually is that the Barbie movie was announced 14 years ago. Did you know that? And that actually 9 years ago, it's when they decided to go about it. Yes. Now, from a marketing dollars viewpoint, no one wants to tell us what the number is, even calling Warner Brothers or talking to Barbie itself. But there's an estimate of $100 million which have been put against the movie and the branding for the past few years. But what we've learned is last weekend, right, when the movie was in the theater, in 24 hours, $377 million were generated internationally over the weekend. And actually 65% of the people attending the movie were women, and something like 40% of the ticket buyers were under 25. So ladies, welcome to the inquiry, and let's talk about authentic identity in the Barbie movie.
Thank you. So excited to be here. All I can say is Sabine and Jess,
so excited to have you,
Barbie world.
We're enjoying it.
I think I left
but
starting on that point. Go ahead.
No, what I was going to say is I think whilst we are talking about movie, the lesson learned and what we can get around why personal branding, authentic identity is so critical today is actually exemplified in a movie which has been, as I said, highlighted 14 years ago, started going into production or development 9 years ago, because I guess a lot of people had to go into the archive of Barbies to understand the cycle of development of the doll, but also a lot of different artifacts. I was fascinated to watch some of the YouTube videos of the weekend, even going into the diversity of Barbie and, finding Barbies which actually looked like me. I think it started around 1960, 1970. I think it was 1968, if I remember the time right, where diversity was much more something into the Barbie story. So ladies, what do you think?
So I'd love to jump in because I read your article on Medium, Sabine, and I just loved it. And one thing that jumped out to me when you were talking about the branding and the marketing, that I think is relative to some of the work we're trying to do, is when you have a massive production like that, one of the reasons that takes sometimes decades, in this case, for a movie to come from, being somewhat green lighted or picked up to actually, being filmed and produced and edited and hitting theaters, is coordinating all of the team that has to be on the film. So not just the lead actors, but all of the support for that and all of the producers and all of the money and all of the strategic partnerships. Sometimes these films do take a really long time to come together. I have a really great friend that's a producer in Hollywood, and he's explained to me exactly what it takes for this stuff to see the light of day. And when you understand how many moving pieces there are, it's almost a miracle for a movie to hit the big screen. It really is that much work. So when we're looking at the way that Margot Robbie as the lead actress, and Ryan Gosling as the lead actor, and Greta Gerwig as the director, and then her partner Noah Buckbaum, I think, was one of the lead producers, the coordination of just those powerful people amplifying the message of the film speaks to the way that they all believe in the common key message themes. And so I think when you look at a corporation or an organization, if they want to have that much impact and that much power, you really have to get buy-in from the individuals, because we've also seen it. I'm not going to name the film, but it was last summer, and there was a little controversy around the director and one of the lead actors, and then the lead actress wasn't necessarily promoting the film because she was a little bothered by something that was going on with the film. So it impacted the film. when you have people that are really front and center and a part of it, and they don't want to talk about it, they don't want to do interviews, they don't want to put their name on it. Imagine now you're a huge company, you have all of this powerhouse talent that works for you, that should be in the ideal world, right? So excited about what you're doing and what your key message themes are, that they're out there like they're proselytizing on your behalf. They're like, yes, I work for XYZ Corp and we're amazing and I believe in it and I want to talk about it, versus what happens when someone's like, yeah, I'm just going to be quiet. I'm kind of ashamed that I'm a part of this. But Barbie didn't have that issue. Everyone that worked on Barbie was super stoked about it, super proud of it. And obviously that made it a massive success. I don't know. What do you think, Lisa?
Oh, I mean, so much. Well, I mean, first of all, I've been stalking the actors, actresses, the musicians. We haven't talked about the musicians yet. You know, the diversity of, you know, everything from, you know, you've got Billie Eilish all the way to, you know, I'm living in a Barbie world that kind of sounds like, you know, it's like on a Kids Bop, you know, which is, it's appropriate for the movie, by the way, but all the way down to such powerhouse artists and musicians. And I mean, Jess, to your point, I've even been, you know, lead actress, like even the way she travels, her luggage is Barbie. Like it looks like the little suitcases my mom had, Sabine, in the 50s, which the little Mattel plastic suitcases. But let's kind of connect that to where you were going, Jess, on authenticity and, you know, kind of that momentum that is creating. I think a lot of times, you know, when we're in the corporate world and corporate roles, we believe in the ultimate, you know, I'll use the coin word, purpose of the industry, of the organization. Because, you know, none of us show up without believing in what the organization's doing. But I think there's this nuanced difference that you highlighted in movies, because they believe in making the movie. Those actors and actresses believed in making those movies. But it's like, is your identity independently supportive of what is kind of connecting and trying to be done? So a great example here, I think that people often think, you know, it's the strategy, it's the corporate vision, it's the corporate mission. Are we all aligned? And we go to retreats and we all say we're aligned and we all have our goals and it cascades down. And yeah, like we all sign up for that. But that doesn't mean you go to an airport with the matching trunk and suitcase and outfit, because by the way, she's not actually being paid to do that.
No, they can't make her do that. She's choosing that.
Right. And I watched this fascinating show about it was different, but there's a lot of shows where those they don't even have the budget to give them that sort of like outfit and attire and things like that. But my point being, we are talking about personal versus corporate branding and identities and authenticity. And I think it kind of connects back to what we were talking about in the first part of this series, where for the longest time, we credentialize ourselves through the brand or logo. But now is the time where a brand is credentialized by us. So we bring the logo value. And I think many people, kind of like actors and actresses, don't believe that, because it's like you're playing a part. Like, I think this movie is such a great like masterclass in business. You feel I'm being paid. Actors and actresses are like the definition of I'm being paid to play a part. But yet in this movie, what we saw is the authenticity of those actors, of those actresses, of the directors, of the producers, of the musicians saying, I am bringing my voice to this movie. And in that was created the diversity, Sabine, that you just talked about, the dexterity, and I believe it's why it's going viral. So Sabine, I don't know, like, what do you think about all this in terms of like how this brand and one's authenticity as an individual in the corporate and entrepreneurial world can create that momentum that then gives credibility to all that corporate, you know, strategy, and I'll call it, you know, your business plan as a startup?
Yeah, Lisa, it's an interesting conversation, because as I started, you know, I went into the history of Barbie, because most of us had Barbies. And what I actually liked as well with the articles, and, you know, I read Vogue, I read The Atlantic, I read Forbes, I read Fortune. I read The Guardian. I read so many. I
I
went
want to
on
know how many
YouTube.
Barbie articles you read this weekend, Sabine.
Oh my God, I went through a lot of article, last weekend. And so what you actually realize, it's a momentum, it's a movement in some ways. And some of the lesson learned for me where what you mentioned around, the promotional tools and also being part of the identity, having the luggage and wearing the pink and having different colors of pink, because there are such a palette of pinks they had to use. And as you can see, we use Barbie pink, the main pink that was used in the movie, but also there were not enough pink around the world anymore. So we drove scarcity, which is rule number 6 of
Oh, that's
the
fascinating.
power
Scarcity in the color
influence from
pink.
Cialdini. Yes, Cialdini, power of influence. It's I think a principle number 6, the rules of scarcity. So first, it's about embodying the brand and finding alignment between the corporate, I would say the movie brand, and the persona, and finding something which gel between the two. The second thing is the breaking the stereotype around diversity and inclusiveness. And I think there was a big theme about women empowerment in it, but also there was a lot of things about men. There were many Kens, and the Kens were as well very diverse as well, right? And so that big theme around diversity, inclusion, women empowerment, respect, equality was very strong as well as part of the movie. But what actually excited me the most is as we start educating and bringing personal brand to bear was around the marketing strategies, right? The marketing strategy started a long time ago. And if you look at the TikTok, Barbie is not really on LinkedIn, but if you look at TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter, which were the main channel, millions of followers have been engaged in that personal branding exercise. You have the world of Barbie. I think in the shopping mall, you have the dream house, which is truly existing, I gather, as well, somewhere in California. And so you have all those different bits, right? These different slices of capabilities. We've played last weekend actually, with the Barbie selfie generator as well. So there were a lot of different slices of things to bring that strategy and that awareness to millions of people around the globe.
1,000%.
So I was thinking about that, Jess, and what dawned on me, because I for those who don't know me, I fall asleep to HGTV at night, so I've been like watching the Barbie Malibu house, Sabine, and they're launching it in, I think it'll be like towards the end of this month, and connecting that, all the ads are connected to retailers and things like home decor and paint colors, to your point about scarcity and how you can make your dream house whatever you want, and really tying into this I miss this youthful belief that, like, I don't know about you all, but like I had my mother's like Barbie set, and I used to like draw my curtains on I would make curtains out of paper or like fabric, and I would like kind of paste them up in my mom's dream house, because I didn't get the plastic one. I had like my mom's like wooden one, or her little folding one. But it was that, like, I could create it to be what I want. And I think that one thing that people often get lost in as executives is that we truly forget, and I know this sounds crazy, but we forget that we make ourselves who we are and who we want to be. And to your point, Sabine, that starts a long time ago, but it's okay if it wasn't known, or, your voice has always been your voice. It just may have not been amplified in a way that someone knew was distinct to you. And so because I often think a lot of executives are, I don't know if the word is intimidated, or sometimes, yeah, it just feels like, how do I become this thing? Like maybe 5 years ago, I would listen to this and been like, yeah, well, they're Barbie and they had a job to do, which was market a movie and toys and a brand. I'm a CFO. What am I gonna market? Like, I do debits and credits. I make sure risk is managed. Like, right. But I think that I separated that in my mind as an executive. But the real enlightenment for me came in this. I've always had a point of view, and I just didn't use my voice to amplify my point of view. So just like when you work with people in the past, and I think that's one thing that's really interesting about this format that we're launching is like this condensed activation. And you talked about like everyone can go to places and meet people, everyone can go someplace and do a workbook and have fun and all the things, but like really leaving and saying like, I knew my voice all along, but I didn't know how to activate it. Is that something that people struggle with? Because I know I struggled with that.
So yes, it's something people struggle with, and it's something women in particular struggle with. So I love that we're using Barbie and female empowerment, and this narrative is kind of our jumping off for this for a few reasons. One is when we get into personal identity, we have to do this, that quote, like, is an unexamined life worth living? Like there's a self-examination to this where you bring out, what are my strengths? Like what can I lead with? What am I proud to speak about? What's my right to win? What are my credentials? And how do I talk about those in a way where I feel confident, where I feel authentic? Because you have to. I mean, we're talking about standing out on purpose, leaning in, owning a message. I think Greta Gerwig, by the way, did an amazing job with that with the film, because when you saw America Ferrera, is that her name, the other actress, America, she was doing like the monologue, and she had to essentially go give the monologue to all the other Barbies. If you haven't seen it yet, sorry, I'm not ruining it because I won't tell you what the monologue is, but it's amazing. That's a strong message. That is not lukewarm. It's not center. It's not middle of the road. It is a very niche. It's very specific. And when Greta Gerwig leaned into that, she's saying, this is my key message theme. It's what I stand for. And I'm putting it front and center. And there might be people that don't like it. And that's okay. You can't be everything to everyone. But when you're authentic, people show up for you. And that's very evident in the box office. So there's that piece. But there's a piece that Sabine highlighted in her, like, if you guys haven't read it yet, go to medium.com and read Sabine's like very in-depth breakdown of like the branding marketing strategy. It's genius. And I was blown away by it. I want to reread it.
In a way, only the queen can do. I mean, it's amazing. Like I read every word.
Only Sabine could write this. But she talks about the strategic partnerships because she's talking about the long path of marketing. Because if you're going to launch a film like this and have it succeed, you need a long vision. And if you're going to launch yourself and succeed, you need a long-term vision. So she talked a lot about strategic partnerships. They did partnerships with Airbnb. They did partnerships with other big brands. In order to do something like that, you need to have such a crystal clear identity and a desired outcome, because those brands are not going to risk their reputation by hitching their horse to you unless they understand exactly what are we going for here, people. So clarity matters. You cannot be like, I don't know, will I do a promotion? I'm sure it'll all work out. Like Airbnb would be like, bye. No, I want to know exactly like, how do we come off? How do you come off? We join these two things together. What's the impact? So when you're saying about the activation, Lisa, the direct correlation for the individual executive is the part of the activation. It's near the end of our process where they now have their key message theme. They have their brand positioning. They know who they are. And we're like, who's your network? Who are your superpower friends, your strategic partners, or a corporation, that now that you know what you want to do and what your message is and how you want to show up in the world, let's look at who's around you, who's in your universe that we can tap into, that we can do collaborations with. You can go on their podcast. They can write a review of your book. They'll amplify your messaging on LinkedIn or some other platform, but let's get organized and structured. We are not like by the seat of our pants, just hoping and praying that someone knows this is what we're doing. We're being very strategic. We know who our friends are, who our network is. Now we know what we're saying, and now we know what we're asking. And that's a big part of the activation. And Barbie did it great.
Yeah, and I think, most people who be listening to this session would be knowing that I'm very strong about talking about the power of partnership and collaboration. I do not believe that in the world we are in, we can actually be individualistic anymore. We have to be far more working with others. And we know that, right? And we have demonstrated it with the group of women and amazing people who are working with every day, whether those are startups, whether that are executives, whether that those are corporates. Gradually, they realize that collaborating with others means thinking selflessly, and it is very difficult because I remember Neela Beth mentioning the equation of value, which a lot of us have seen in the past, where at the end of the day, it's whatever you do has to be actually by giving selflessly to others, because karma is going to come back to you hundredfold. And whichever people believe in it or not, it does work. So the power of partnership. We've seen various big brands such as Airbnb, right? You mentioned Jess, Xbox, YouTube, a lot of fashion brand coming to bear as part of this amazing campaign to actually amplify each other's, I would say, audience, fan groups, to actually tap into it and create these online and offline experiences which comes together, and will probably end up at some point in the metaverse as well, because it's already on Xbox, to actually extend that Barbie movie to the Barbie physical dolls to other engagement, which will hopefully help even younger women to feel completely empowered about who they are, and also the Kens, right? The Barbies, but the Kens as well, to be empowered around the thing they want to do in their future. Also, through the work we are doing, I think I want to also highlight some of the things I saw from this great article, Lisa, you shared from Norm Bond, right? I think we need to recognize this great piece of work Norm Bond did,
It was such
which
a great
we
piece,
summarize, where, right?
I just wanted to say that, to call out to Norm. Sorry, Sabine, I wanted to intentionally interject there. He was one of the first articles that we read that was drawing the intentional correlation to business models and authenticity. Now, clearly it's everywhere now, but I just wanted to call out the trend and the pattern that he saw, which is why the three of us kind of connected on it so quickly, but really to highlight that I think that it's very authentic to acknowledge people for being pattern recognizers. And Norm Bond just did a tremendous job of picking up this pattern and translating it into business in a way that I think most people were dismissing this as, oh, it's a marketing thing, or it's a retail thing, or whatever. But Norm was really great in doing that. Sorry, Sabine. I just wanted to amplify that.
No, you're absolutely right. No excuse to be made. And I think when we think about authentic identity, personal branding, corporate branding, it's not just about the physical self and how we present ourselves, the color we wear, or the handbag we actually carry. It is about tapping into the emotional part of other people and doing that in an influential way, not manipulative way, influential way, to achieve an outcome, which might be receiving investment or selling product and services, because we are in alignment with our core, what we present and what people want from us. It's also about innovation. So we are always creative, right? Today we have new music, we have put the pink color, we still are using our blues. So we are applying a little bit of creativity. But at the end of the day, it's about stepping out of the norm and being different. And being different, actually, it's cool. And one thing that Jacqueline Legrand highlighted whilst we were exchanging messages over last weekend was keep it simple. Often, I think young businesses sometimes make it more complicated than it needs to be. And we always need to remember that our audience need to keep it, well, we need to keep it simple. They need to understand what we are talking about, which therefore allow us to maximize on our campaign tactics, right? we are promoting a lot around online tactics, but we also have offline tactics here. Online meaning for me a lot of social media, but I know there are other mechanisms like PR and even the old email or mail strategy where you send a present to somebody's in their inbox, meaning their mailbox, is also very, very popular. But at the end of the day, it's about creating a compelling story between self and what we want to put out there.
So
you were saying, Lisa.
One question I wanted to ask both of you, and this, I think a lot of people do this with their own identity. They do it with branding strategies. They do it with corporate strategy. They do it with marketing. Is people try to emulate what they think works. And I think that I could see a lot of brands trying to emulate the what and not the how. And so I think what Barbie did really well in all of this was the how, was this masterclass in individualization and authenticity. Even, recording artists, celebrating other artists on the, like the partnerships and alliances, but still true to themselves. Like Sabine, I remember you and I were like WhatsApping at one point during all this. And I was like, did you know Billie Eilish recorded a song for the movie? And I think you were like, no, I can't remember how it went down. But you wouldn't think, I'm just being blunt here, right? Who would think that Billie Eilish would record a song necessarily for Barbie, like, right? But yet, and I remember like WhatsApping you a screenshot of her on the red carpet, like in her pink cargo pants and her baby pink Nikes with her scrunched baby pink socks, very on brand for Billie Eilish, right? And so I think that a lot of times, I'm going to get to a point, we lose ourselves thinking, I need to emulate X person or Y person, and I need to copy them. People do it all the time with, oh, Sabine got a lot of likes on LinkedIn, so I'm going to copy like what she does. And I think what we lose sight of is the formula is the authenticity to that person, meaning it's actually why you can put it out there without fear of it being stolen. Nobody can actually emulate or be you. You can only be you. And so I think I wanted to ask you both about that. I know we're getting short on time, but I think often people go and try to work on their personal brand or try to be authentic or try to get whatever, social following, business following, etc. But a lot of times it's like, well, I'm going to apply a formula. And I think that the observation I have in working with the two of you is that the formula is you have to start with yourself, which is why you have to be really, really, really clear about who you are and what your point of view is. And I'd love to hear, Jess, from you and Sabine on that.
Well, I'm going to
so I think that is
to your
that is a just answer, because I was thinking about the beautiful books I've seen, the beautiful playbooks you've done for a lot of those amazing people. And as I was listening to Lisa, my brain was reviewing, the board with the playbooks around how a brand identity comes together and why every individual is unique, actually. Jess.
Yeah. So let's go with the Billie Eilish example. So Greta Gerwig had a very specific human story to tell. And as the movie progresses, if you've watched it, it really gets down to the core roots of like, there are themes of feminism for sure. And there's, and there's talk about the patriarchy, but that at the very end of the film, and I won't get too specific, there's a beautiful discussion between two human beings who have their own vulnerabilities and their own frailties and their own desires to show up and find themselves in the world. And it's very moving and it's very touching, and it might end in a way you wouldn't expect a movie about Barbie to end. It's just really lovely. And so when I think about these partnerships where it's not someone going, hey, we're a huge, mega multi-million-dollar blockbuster. You, Billie Eilish, are a Billboard top 10 like mega star. And so let's take all of our star power and like smush it together and just I seriously doubt the conversation went that way. I think that Greta, I'm going to guess, I think Greta sat down with Billy, like human to human, woman to woman, and was like, these are the themes I'm talking about. This is like the heartfelt, genuine story I'm trying to tell at the end of the day. And I think you, as a young woman who's been in the public eye since you were a teenager, and you've been through it all, like you kind of went through puberty and came of age, and your body changed and your style changed, and people projected things on you, and you're trying to find your voice, and you're doing it under a microscope. And I think some of the themes I'm talking about, you might be able to understand, and then how do you see it? And I think it was a nuanced human to human conversation where they arrived at a partnership that felt so authentic to both parties that anything they were going to do was going to go gangbusters. And you're right, Lisa, you cannot emulate that. You can't just be like, okay, we're like a big film and we're just going to find a big rock star and just like put them together. Magic. That's not
happens.
Yeah. So that's my take on that. And so when we help people develop their voice and their identity, and it's so true and authentic, and they know their key story as a human, and they can articulate and tell it to other humans, they can find ways to work together, amplify each other, support each other. That's so authentic. No one feels embarrassed. Like you said, no one's afraid to put it out there because it's so true. It's impenetrably true.
I love that.
I do think when you actually look at authenticity, you need a mirror. You need somebody else to actually evaluate what that authenticity is truly. And also another thing you highlighted around, the partnership, it's when 1 + 1 = 10, 1 + 1 + 1 = 15. And when you look at all those partnerships, they amplified each other. And it's very difficult to replicate because that web of identity that has been created by that initiative and that project has delivered, for sure, a lot of monetary outcomes, but also some memorable emotional experiences that no one can forget. Which takes me to what we want to do in Tel Aviv, right? On the 5th of September, we are running our workshop. And this is for the women, the men who are out there wanting to build their own personal, authentic identity. We are going to go through use cases or business cases such as the Barbie movie and maybe Billie Eilish, definitely Elon Musk, and why not Sarah Blakely? The key thing is every one of them have built this unique identity which have made them who they are today, very successful and respected business people, but also artists. And there's a formula behind it, which actually every one of us can deploy. Lisa, Jess, any last word of wisdom?
I was just going to say, don't miss Tel Aviv. It's going to be amazing. That's not wisdom, but it's true. I think that a lot of people think, oh, I don't need this, or this isn't me, or this is for marketing people or whatever. And I want to tell everyone out there, this is for you. Because every time that you're in a position where you feel that something's not for you and that you're in a safe space is right when you are like, oh, I really wish I had done that. Because to the point about this movie, getting ahead of that is something that nobody else can take from you. So I say that as a point of us, our authentic reason for doing this is to help people. And so we're really excited to help people.
Well, and to piggyback on what Lisa just said, I mean, I think you can all feel the passion in the room. Like, this is authentic. Like, we couldn't fake being this excited about it. We're nerds. We talk about it all the time, but just because we enjoy it. And no one can tell your story like you can. But if you are out in the world and you're not telling your story, someone's going to tell it for you. It could be the comments section, it could be a manager, it could be, someone on a team. But, I think if there's anything we can learn from Barbie herself or from, the women on here, or from what we're trying to do, is your story is being told, but are you the one writing it? Are you the one telling it? Or is someone doing it on your behalf? Just kind of filling the empty space with their own narrative. So it's very powerful to tell a story, and it's ultimately powerful to write it yourself and tell it authentically through your own voice.
That's so true, Jess. And as you were giving those last words of wisdom, I would say, let's remember the founders and the executive we are working with. And I will address myself to the founders actually first, is that, when they ask us for help to fundraise, right, to find investors, and there is absolutely no brand identity to find online, the work gets hard because we have to prove that they're actually good business people. So why don't we start this a little bit earlier? And I want also to address to the great corporation we are working with every day. We know regulation and we know stock price can be affected by the wrong statement from employees. However, I know there are many people out there who have succeeded to do that for their companies. And I cannot wait to have Danielle Guzman on my podcast to talk about just that, because she has done it very effectively at Mercer. So on that note, we will finish off this episode of The Inquiry, talking about Barbie, the movie, and we will see you very soon next week.
To talk to me is what I want the most in my life. They say you're out of my league, but I don't give a damn.